There's a drive to be data-driven now in industry and business, and that's really what's going on with a lot of what we do. That's the whole purpose of having this series, focusing on us as business users. Because if business users like us, if the consumers of data and the consumers of reports cannot take them to the next level, fundamentally, we're going to always be hamstrung. We're always going to get to the point where analysis takes us this far, and then to do that next bit, I have to do something separate, and then hopefully analytics will catch up. Or invariably what actually happens is people will start to utilize and use something which isn't from the official sources. There's a function for that. That's referred to as shadow reporting, shadow analytics functionality. As that comes through, that erodes the value of any enterprise-grade reporting solution. And traditionally, that has been the death knell for lots of analytics platforms globally. So what's it mean to be data-driven in Power BI? Hi, my name's Ross, the creator and founder of Geordie Consulting and Geordie Intelligence, the YouTube channel you're watching right now. What we're doing at the moment is we're looking at this whole data-driven piece. And the reason why we're looking at it is because we were talking about user segmentation. But why are we talking user segmentation? So user segmentation is something that you will have to deliver multiple times throughout your career. And it's something that goes beyond the normal, or not the normal, that goes beyond the simple, shall we say. So it's easy to go to a retailer and say, right, these are your top 10 customers. But is there a huge business benefit in targeting them to get them to spend more? If they're already spending all they're going to spend with you, isn't it about attracting new customers or looking at other things? So there's other segments of your customer base that potentially you want to look at. You want to look at those people who are maybe starting to increase or doing something else. And that's the piece that we're really looking at now as we're doing the piece around parkrun. And that's what we're trying to figure out with our parkrun dataset, user segmentation. So before we go any further, before we look at really the details as why we've come this way or what's going on, do me a favor, take a moment, like and subscribe to the channel, give us a comment to tell me what you think about what we're doing. Is segmentation something you've tackled in the past? It's something you've not. Whatever it is, let me know. If you decide you'd like some consultation in your life, there's a link down below to request a meeting with Geordie Consulting, and they'll quite happily work with you to get you and your business the best result they can. So fundamentally, this is where it all comes from, okay? The social ROI of parkrun. Now, there are two figures now. When I started doing this, there was just this one. I went through and found three altogether. I've kind of ignored one because I think parkrun have moved on, and it was a global figure as opposed to a UK only figure. So there's two figures for the UK now that parkrun are going, and I'm sorry, I apologise. I got Copilot just build this deck nice and quickly just to explain it to you, because honestly, social ROI, finger in the air is putting it mildly. What does parkrun deliver? And this is where we come to it. So there's more to parkrun. With the free events, people are actually engaging, they're doing something. The point being as well that 16.7%, or one for every pound, you get 16.7 pounds back, is to do with things like the impact on health. So people are actually coming to or attending health services less frequently, less sick days, all those kind of things, better social inclusion, which then leads to a reduction in crime. All these things which are kind of mentioned, but very difficult to validate. Okay, and we can see all these things that go through and everything. I might put this as a PDF and attach this somewhere so you can have a look if you really want to. In terms of the interesting parts, this is the sort of thing that we're looking at. So recently parkrun kind of put this out. It's from 2021, saying that, the Treasury are coming back and saying it's maybe £30 for every pound. We've then had another study taken that came out in 2024, so this is like a year old, saying it's £16.70. So these both coming through, both referencing the same well-being adjusted life year metric that they're presenting. And the more you look at this, it's kind of really, okay. I don't like these kind of stats because they're impossible to prove, impossible to validate. But these are exactly the sort of thing that we get in a boardroom predominantly. Oh, it says this, oh, it says that. When we look at it and try and work out, well, what does it mean? It's very difficult. So what I've done, okay, is we've extended on our user segmentation. We've kind of come to this point where it's either 6 or 7 segments. I'm not fully sure. I suspect the answer is probably between 6 and 10 segments would be the right full number. We'll probably go to 7 and stop there because it gives us a good impression of what it is we want to do. But I've put this together so we can have a look, all right? So from here, let me put this focus cells, it just makes it life much easier for us. What we can see with this, if I zoom in, is that for 2024, across all the local authorities, we're saying that nearly £1.5 million, it was the potential benefit from parkrun, or the potential economic impact that was of revenue flowing into the local economy. Okay, it's not necessarily all flowing in because they're not all going to be tourists, but it's just about kind of what's going on, because there's more to this. You know, it's in terms of money, you want to keep it flowing through the economy is the thing. You don't want people hoarding it. You want it moving. So £1.5 million of spend going into local shops, going into overnights, you know, all those kind of things, but into the hospitality industry in the area is kind of what we're trying to get to with this. It's never going to be accurate. This number could be probably as low as 1 million, probably as low as 500,000. It could be as high as 3 million. It could be as high as 5 million. Trying to figure it out, I think, is going to be difficult to get to the real number. But what we want to get to is this point that we can see, based on this methodology, which is the key piece, based on this methodology, because we have standardized it, we can see year over year there has been an increase. Of course, there's a decrease for COVID, but then it's coming back, and we can see that 2019 has now been superseded in 2023. 2024 obviously was higher, and it looks like 2025, based on where we are, is probably going to come out above 2024. So what we've got to already is we're starting to say, right, based on a methodology that's, yes, we admit is not perfect, it is very much back of a fag packet calculations, all those kind of things, we can see there has been a steady increase. And we could talk about that and say, well, there's been an increase. This is how it's working. We can look, and what I've done is I've broken this down so we can see based on our tourist numbers. You can see then we've got like the proper tourists, we've got like the near travel and the local. So local is kind of just, oh, there's another park run nearby, I'm going to do it this week. Those people are probably going to spend the least. You've got the near people, near travel, which is more kind of like I'm spending an hour and a half, 2 hours even getting to an event that's a bit further afield. So I'm probably going to have breakfast there. I might stay and have lunch. I might do something, you know, go and shop and do those. So we've kind of got this idea, haven't we, that there's potentially more to this. As well as this, we need to understand, and this was one of the things I've been having a discussion on Reddit with people trying to work out what's the right thing we should be doing. And some people are saying, well, we should, you know, we don't travel just for parkrun. Some people are saying they do travel just for parkrun. If you've got a reason to be in an area, there's a parkrun there, you might go and say, well, I might stay an extra night. I was working in Newcastle during the week. I'm going to stay an extra night and then do a parkrun on Saturday and then go home because I can get work to pay for the extra night and I can get work to pay for the travel. You know, depending on what you're doing, if you finish at 5 o'clock at night or 4:30 at night on a Friday, most companies will say, you know, we'll pay you the extra night for you to stay in a hotel rather than you traveling home late at night. These things are not unheard of. So it's well worth understanding potentially what's going on. Okay. So we've got that going on. So we can start to look and see, well, based on this methodology, again, we can see if we look this time just at, say, Newcastle, again, the number is increasing over time, year over year. Likewise our near, likewise our local. So we can see there's a lot going on. We know a lot of this is going to be to do with there's an increase in numbers. And of course, the amounts are all static. They're not going to, you know, they're not inflation adjusted or anything like that. They are static. You could carry on and build more and more complicated models into this if you really wanted to, but the point with this was just be kind of simple. Then we've got people who have had a PB today, on the basis that potentially if you've got a PB, you're probably more likely to then go and get a coffee, reward yourself. Oh, I've been working really hard. I deserve a bacon butty. Those kind of things might well happen. So again, we're supposing, does this happen? And again, we're seeing a similar trend that a number is increasing, which this is what we want to be seeing. This is the kind of purpose that we understand that something is doing the right things. And then lastly, we've got the regular. And the vast majority of regular people, I think probably they go do parkrun, they're not going to spend anything, and they're going to go home. I suspect it might be sensible to maybe adjust these numbers slightly. And again, we can revisit and do that as we see fit. So how have we got all this to work? Okay, so fundamentally, the way I've got all this to work is by using, if we go into our template file, ever going into these template files, these Power BI templates, these are brilliant. Set this up once, I double clicked on it to open it for a new report that I'm going to build because my manager's asked a question, or I've just had that thought about, I wonder what, what does that mean? Okay, and it will open. Just let me go and fix this. I keep forgetting to fix this. I should fix the proper template before we do this. Okay, if we have a look at the data dictionary, okay, and we go down to the names, and we go through all here, the dump filters measure, where are we? Here we go. Okay, so let's have a look. So we've got the first timers like far. So this is the full tourist piece that we're talking about, okay? So here is the DAX that we've written. So with these numbers, what we're going to suggest is that our first timers, because a tourist is a first timer, so for our high value tourists, we're going to say, well, potentially are 20% of first timers high value tourists? That number potentially is wrong. I'm almost certain it probably is. Maybe it's more like 10%. But the point is we can tweak these numbers and we can do more with them. And then these people, we're going to say these people are spending £50. Okay. And for me, I've had these conversations as the run director or the event director of Jesmond Dean Parkrun with people. So I feel that's reasonable, but that might just be, oh, these people coming to our event, and people going to other events potentially don't spend as much. But then alphabetiers, I need to go to different events, I need to do this. So I can see it might be worth splitting this 10%, one spends 30, one spends 50, that kind of thing. I think there's a value or there's a discussion to be had around there. But we can get to that. We might even just drop it down to 40, say, or 35 and be happy with it. Either way, that's fine. And that methodology, that mindset works. And we've got then first timers. Let's just get rid of these. Okay, so we've got first timers. We've got PB. So if somebody's got a PB, as I say, they're more likely to kind of go, oh, I'm going to get a breakfast. I deserve something for that. And then we've got the other three in terms of that they're like a regular runner. So we've said 70% of them probably won't spend a penny. They won't spend anything at Parkrun. They're going to go do the event, disappear. And then we've said there's the other 30%, maybe 20% of them are social. So they kind of every week they go and they get a coffee, they do something else like that. So we said maybe £5. Some people might just get a coffee at £3. Some people might get a coffee and a bacon sandwich. Some people might do something else. Sausage sandwiches or vegetarian options are also available, by the way. I'm conscious I've said bacon a lot now. And then we've got lastly those celebration ones, which maybe might accommodate for some of the others. So we're getting that feel. We've got a logical set of data that allows us to segment people. Okay, and from there we can then work out this is the value of that category. The whole way you then find those people who are within these segments is a separate argument because that's an absolute nightmare. But with this, we'd be able to start to have that conversation, wouldn't we? We could take this logically using our food hygiene data set, and we could go and we could have a discussion with a local cafe or a local restaurant. Say, oh, do you know what? We've got this many people coming to an event just around the corner from you. Is there something that you would like to offer? We could trade something. Maybe there's a discount they'd offer, or maybe there's something they could do, or the like. but you've actually coming to it from a position of data as opposed to just, oh, it'd be really nice if you could give us a discount. So there's a value add there. But the challenge with doing it this way is we're kind of stuck. It's all in this measure and there's not really a great deal I can do with it. So what are the other options for this? So what I've done is we've gone to the next step already, okay, because it was important to show you. And what we've got here is we've got segmentation. So if we go to a new table and we bring in segmentation, just drop those two in. Okay, and let's keep this as a table. Oh. Okay. Oh my goodness me, I've a table. Okay. Let's keep this as a table. We can then say, what else is there? So I needed to do this, and I keep realizing whenever I do these that I need to select the right thing. So let's go to a right click, a new measure. Okay, let's zoom in on this. Okay, you don't need me to zoom in properly. So we're going to call this seg type, okay, because that's what we're going to divide this by. This is going to be selected value. Okay, so selected value will return what's the value that you've got here, okay, that meets all the filter criteria for it. This is all the context criteria to get to something. So we're going to pick segmentation type, close brackets, okay. Then we can drop that on there, okay, and you can see, so we've got this RFP and R, okay, so regular, first time, or regular first time, or PB, yeah. Let's do another one for this. Okay, it's going to be seg. Hopefully you're starting to see that DAX isn't necessarily hugely complicated. There's rules to it, but it's important that you start to see you can do stuff with it. This was because I've hidden these columns from it. It's right that I did, because you don't want to just pick them. They need to be used properly. So we've got, here we go. So we've got seg PCT. My mind's gone blank for a second. Yeah, it is selected value. Okay, so selected value. See, IntelliSense is there to help you. Percent. Let's close brackets, put that down. Of course, it's a percentage, so let's drop that into the chart. But what we need to do is make sure that we've got, that's a percentage, and we're going to say we want 0 decimal places with it. So we've got the percentages in there. And then lastly, let's add one more secondary measure. Seg amount equals selected value, and this is going to be the amount. Okay, and again, we can drop that onto there, and then for here, what we should really do is set this to be currency. Remember, we are GBP, and we don't want any decimal places for this, okay? We could leave decimal places, but tell you what, we will, because otherwise people will complain, won't they? Okay, so we've got decimal places. So we've got something. So we've built a table that's very easy and just gives us this information. And then what we can do from there is we can say, well, based on that, how many people fell into that criteria? Okay, so we find that out because we've got segmentation participation. Okay? I should have really put some thousand separators on there. I will do after this. Okay, and we can suddenly start to see, right, so we're talking about 193,000 people. That sounds an awful lot, doesn't it? But not 193, is it? It's 1.9 million. Yes, which is right. We know that's how many people we've had completing parkruns. We can see how these are all broken down. So we've got this idea, haven't we, that we can break down our event effectively. What we can also then do is we can see, well, how does that equate in, not validation, sorry, got a validation checker on here just to try and help make this easier for people. So let's remove the validation. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we can now see we've got an amount to this. And then because of the nature of Power BI and the way it is, we can see we've got our 12 million, but what we could then do, how does this look from a local authority perspective? So we can bring local authorities in, and we can then say, well, let's bring in the amount. And we've got a nice chart there. We could say, let's have a look this by year. We could drop the year in. We could make that a slicer. We could then also drop in month year into the slicer. So we've then got something better, and we could then say, well, we want to see 2024. We can see what that looks like. We could then put some data labels on so it makes it a bit easier to read. We can see what's happening. In our data labels, let's put the values. Let's change the display units to 1000, say, just keep it where we want it. We're not trying to say this is to the penny, but we can now start to see and explore. We could have somebody saying, well, what about the summer in Newcastle? What happened? So we could then say, well, what we're going to do is we're going to say, well, what we're interested in is, say, June, July, August. So we say June, July, August, September, say. We can then work out what's happened in Newcastle. We could bring in specific events. We can do things, but what we're doing is we're applying a like-for-like analysis against everything is the point. That's really the biggest benefit that we're going to get from this. So even if we know that this is ballparky, we can compare and contrast. And for all we know, these numbers are not perfect. They have a logical foundation and a logical framework that's gone in to build them. And that logical foundation and framework is what gives them the power and gives us the ability to use them and discuss them. So what do you think? Okay. The logic and the mindset that goes into this is the important thing. It's for all, yes, the values are something we should care about. Even just being able to go down and seeing the people value, how many potential people have we got in a location on a Saturday this month, or that we can then say, well, based on this, we expect next August or next July to be this level. And we can do all that. We can look at the year-over-year trending for parkrun. We can look at all these things to work out people. And then what we're all trying to do now is say, well, based on this, what is the potential income that can be derived from this? What's the economic impact or driver that parkrun brings? And as I say, it's not as simple. It's not something we'd ever be able to get to where we can be 100% clear this is definitely right, but it's something that we can put in place and then apply and compare and contrast over time. Hey, what's happening? So the potential income of, say, £500,000 or whatever it is we decide, we can see, well, what was that last year? What would that be this year? And we can write projection algorithms so that we can say, well, we're halfway through the year. Based on the way the rest of the year goes, we expect to get to this level. All those are things that can be done. And again, it's all started from a really simple, hey, how many people did that parkrun last Saturday? We've pulled through the data, we've extended on the data, we've expanded on the value of the data, and we keep doing that. And that is something that I see happening time and again in Power BI. That is the capability that you get and that you deliver into your business as you do that. And because you are having discussions about the data, the value of the data and the value of the semantic model that contains it increases over time. And the more it increases, the lower your business cost of analytics actually becomes, because chances are you're already doing something over there that you now don't need to do because it's now embedded in this main model that one small group is looking at and managing and maintaining. And then because that small group is looking at it, managing it and maintaining it, they're able to bring more functionality in, which makes it able to do more for you as an organization. So there's a huge benefit for you, and there's a huge benefit for, well, the world in theory, if we're looking at this SROI side. But you know what we mean. So I hope you've enjoyed that. If you think, do you know what, I really like that, this is the sort of thing that I want to see and would love to do more with our business, why don't you get in touch? There's a meeting link down below. Request a meeting with Geordie Consulting. We'll sit down and we'll work with you to deliver whatever it is that you want to do to get that segmentation embedded deeply within your organization, or anything else, of course. For now though, stay safe, take care, ta-da.